My name is Naomi Carter. I'm 29 years old, and the night my father cut me off, I was the one paying the utility bill on the house he was sitting in. At 10:47 p.m., I was still on shift at the freight dispatch office, headset on, screens glowing, rerouting two delayed trailers and approving the next round of automatic payments from my phone when the family group chat lit up. My father sent one message: "Don't contact us. Don't come around. You're on your own now." No warning, no call, no explanation. Just a text, like a slammed door. 3 seconds later, my mother hit the thumbs up reaction. My sister added a heart. I looked down at the payment confirmations open on my screen: electric, internet, phone plan, truck insurance, pharmacy refill, all of it tied to my checking account. They were throwing me out of the family from a living room my money kept warm. So I typed back, "Great, I'll cancel the auto payments first thing tomorrow." My mother sent a voice note so fast it almost overlapped my message. "You can't do that, Naomi. Don't be nasty. Your father is upset." My sister wrote, "Stop being dramatic." My father answered, "Try it." That was the exact second something in me went quiet. Not weak, not emotional, finished. Because they thought I still needed their approval more than they needed my bank account. They had confused my loyalty with surrender, my silence with agreement, and my help with something permanent. By midnight, the group chat was exploding, and for the first time in years, I wasn't scared of what would happen next. I was thinking about billing cycles, passwords, and how loud that house would get once my money stopped humming through the walls. Before I tell you what he texted after that, and what happened when I finally walked away from that chat for good. Tell me what time it is where you are right now, and where you're watching from. I want to see how far this story reaches tonight. I got home after 3 in the morning, kicked off my work boots, pulled my laptop onto the kitchen counter in my studio apartment, and opened the spreadsheet I had been pretending not to need. I work as an overnight freight dispatch coordinator outside Kansas City, which means numbers, deadlines, routes, and mistakes that cost real money. I've always been good with systems, which is probably how my family turned me into one. At first, none of it looked like abuse. It looked like helping. My father, Russell Carter, had hurt his back and said he just needed a few months to get steady again. My mother, Linda, said keeping the phone plan in my name made more sense because I got the better rate through work. My younger sister, Brianna, promised cosmetology school would pay off and asked if I could cover one semester because she was so close to finishing. Then it became the water bill, because Dad forgot. Then the internet, because Mom needed it for telehealth. Then grocery deliveries, because Brianna was between jobs. Then the truck insurance, because Russell said he couldn't do side work without it. Then the pharmacy auto refill, because Linda cried the 1 month her card got declined. I told myself I was keeping things stable. What I was really doing was building a life support machine and plugging my own paycheck into it. I went line by line. Electric, gas, water, Wi-Fi, 2 phone lines, truck insurance, Brianna's tuition balance, streaming services I never used, home maintenance charges, emergency grocery runs, pharmacy pickups, a late property tax installment. I kept scrolling, month after month. My card, my account, my overtime, my skipped weekends, my holidays spent in a fluorescent dispatch room eating vending machine crackers while sending money to a house where people called me selfish if I was 10 minutes late returning a text. At 3:41 a.m., I stopped scrolling and finally totaled it. In 31 months, I had spent $68,214.17 keeping their life from wobbling. I said the number out loud because I didn't believe it. Then I said it again. $68,000. Enough for a down payment. Enough to wipe out my car loan. Enough to let me stop choosing double shifts every time I felt guilty. I sat there staring at the spreadsheet until the cells blurred. Then I started matching each bill against old emails and bank alerts, and that was when I noticed something I should have caught much sooner. The property tax reminder for the house wasn't addressed to my father at all. It referenced the Hayes family trust. Hayes. My mother's maiden name? My grandfather's name. Walter Hayes? A memory hit me hard and clean. A year earlier, Grandpa had asked me, almost casually, "Are they still telling people they bought that house from me?" I had laughed because I thought he was joking. Now I dug through my inbox and found an old thread where a county notice had been forwarded to me by mistake. The house was not in my father's name. The man telling me not to come around didn't even own the roof over his own head. I leaned back, covered my mouth, and laughed once, not because anything was funny, but because the shape of the whole lie had finally come into focus. I had not been supporting a struggling family. I had been subsidizing a performance. They got to play respectable homeowners. I got to be the invisible extension cord behind the wall. At 4:12 a.m., I printed every statement I could find. At 4:38, I highlighted recurring payments in yellow. At 5:05, I made a second tab labeled Cancel First. At 5:47, I showered, changed, grabbed the stack of papers, and drove out to see my grandfather before the sun had fully burned through the fog over the fields. The truth was sitting there on my passenger seat, clipped in a black binder. And for the first time, I wasn't asking myself how to keep my family comfortable. I was asking a much better question. When you finally see that everyone is standing on your shoulders, do you keep holding them up? Or do you step aside and let them learn what gravity feels like? My grandfather, Walter Hayes, lived 25 minutes outside the city in a white farmhouse with a detached workshop that used to be his office when he worked in county records. Even in retirement, half the room still looked official. Filing cabinets, deed books, a notary seal, labeled boxes, a map of township parcels pinned to the wall. When I pulled into the gravel drive, he was already outside pouring coffee into a travel mug like he had been expecting a problem before I even arrived. Walter was 74, sharp as barbed wire, and the only person in my family who never confused softness with weakness. He didn't ask me why I was there. He took one look at my face, opened the screen door and said, "Bring the papers in." I laid the binder on his kitchen table and told him everything. The text, the reaction emojis, the voice note, the autopay list, the total. He listened without interrupting, then pushed his glasses up and started reading my printouts like a man checking weather before a storm. When he finished, he stood, walked into the old office, and came back with a red file box. He set it on the table between us and opened it. Carter House, the tab said in black marker. Inside were copies of tax notices, trust documents, 2 unsigned payment agreements, and handwritten notes in his blocky script. The house, he explained, had never left the Hayes family trust. Years earlier, he had let Russell and Linda move in with the understanding that they would either buy it gradually or pay modest rent once they got back on their feet. They had done neither. Russell missed meeting after meeting. Linda cried every time money came up. Walter stopped pushing because my mother swore they were close to stability, and because family fatigue is real even when you're right. "So all this time," I said, looking down at the documents, "he's been acting like I owe loyalty to a house he doesn't even own." Walter's jaw tightened. "He's been acting like other people's patience belongs to him. That's not the same thing." Then he looked at my spreadsheet, tapped the total with one finger and said, "And you've been underwriting his pride." That hit harder than the text had, because it was true. Every time I paid a bill to avoid conflict, I protected the exact lie that hurt me. Walter told me something else then, something I hadn't known. He had recently received calls from a finance company because Brianna had listed the farmhouse address as a reference on an application. He'd also heard through a cousin that Russell had started telling people I helped sometimes because I still lived like a kid and didn't have real expenses. I sat there stunned. I had paid their bills while they told the world they barely needed me. Walter didn't comfort me. He equipped me. He walked me through the trust documents, printed a copy of the deed, and showed me the legal notice template he could use if he wanted them out. Then he folded his hands and said, "You do not need another kitchen table argument. Don't go over there and beg to be understood. People who profit from your silence will always call your truth cruel. If you're done, be done clearly." I asked him what that meant. He said, "It means document everything, stop everything, and let me handle the property side. You send facts, not feelings. If they want drama, don't feed it. Give them dates, amounts, deadlines, and consequences." He even told me how to do it so there would be no confusion. Record a short video, keep my voice steady, list every automatic payment by account and cancellation date, send the ledger, and say nothing extra. "And the house?" I asked. Walter leaned back in his chair. "The house stays under my roof of authority, not Russell's ego. If he pushes this, I will call the meeting myself and make the terms clear." Then he added quieter, "Naomi, kindness that has no boundaries stops being kindness. It becomes permission." I left with copies of the trust papers, a folder clipped under my arm, and a kind of strength I hadn't felt in years. I had walked in feeling discarded. I walked out realizing I was the only one in that family who had ever been operating in good faith. I didn't go to their house. I didn't call. I didn't write a long emotional message they could twist into proof that I was unstable. I parked outside the dispatch center before my next shift, set my phone against the steering wheel, opened my spreadsheet, and recorded a 5-minute video. I wore my reflective work vest, my hair still damp from the shower, dark circles under my eyes, no makeup, no performance. "Since Dad says I'm on my own now," I began. "This is what that means." Then I screen shared the ledger. I read each item the way I'd read a route report. Electric, average $286 a month, paid by me for 26 months. Gas, average $193. Water and trash, average $121. Family phone plan, 3 lines, $247. Russell Carter's truck insurance, $188. Brianna Carter's tuition auto debit, $375. Pharmacy refills for Linda Carter, variable but recurring. Grocery delivery account, averaging $510 monthly during the last year. Internet, streaming bundles, emergency repairs, and a property tax installment. I didn't accuse, I documented. Then I said the only sentence they needed to hear. "Because I have been told not to contact you and not to come around, all support ends in the same spirit. Electric and gas will transfer or terminate on Friday. The phone plan transfer request has been submitted. Truck insurance will not renew. Tuition payments are canceled. Grocery accounts are closed. Pharmacy cards have been removed. If you need clarification, please review the spreadsheet attached. Grandpa Walter Hayes has confirmed the property issue separately and will contact you about that matter." Then I sent the video to the family group chat with the subject line, "Since I'm on my own now." For exactly 15 seconds, nothing happened. Then the phone detonated. "Russell, you little ungrateful brat. Linda, please call me before you do anything rash. Brianna, you cannot send people spreadsheets like this. This is insane. Russell again, you think because you make some money you can humiliate me?" Then the voice notes started coming in like machine gun fire. My mother crying, my father shouting over her, Brianna talking so fast half her words blurred together. I didn't answer any of them. I opened each account and started shutting doors. Cancel auto-renew, remove payment method, revoke authorization, end shared access, transfer line, freeze card, Change password. Confirmation email. Confirmation text. Confirmation screen. It was surgical. No screaming. No scene. Just a system finally refusing bad input. By 11 that morning, the effects had begun. Russell sent 3 furious texts because he had gone to pick up a side job and discovered the insurance on his truck had lapsed at renewal. Brianna called me from an unknown number because the Beauty Academy portal had locked her from booking clinic hours after the missed payment posted. Linda left a message whispering that she suddenly couldn't use the pharmacy account and, "Why would you do this to your own mother?" The better question was, why they thought I was supposed to keep financing people who had just told me not to come around. But I still didn't answer. Instead, during my lunch break, I did something I hadn't let myself do in 2 years. I used my own money for my own future. I paid the application fee on a 1-bedroom apartment closer to work. I enrolled in the supervisor certification program my company had been encouraging me to take. I moved part of my direct deposit into a savings account I named Peace. By the time my shift ended, the group chat had gone from insult to panic. The last message I saw before muting it was from my father. "You made your point. Turn it back on." That was when I knew the point had finally landed. Not when they called me cruel, not when they shouted, when they asked for the comfort back. Have you ever noticed how fast people stop calling you selfish the second they realize your boundaries are going to inconvenience them? I thought the worst part would be the anger. I was wrong. The worst part was what they did after they understood I wasn't coming back. 2 days later, I got a message on Facebook from a woman in Independence I had never met. She apologized for bothering me, said she had bought a silver charm bracelet from a local resale page and wanted to know if the inscription inside was meaningful before she polished it off. She sent a photo. My stomach dropped so hard I had to sit down. The engraving read, "To Mom, love, Naomi." I had given that bracelet to Linda after she finished radiation 6 years earlier. I bought it with my first holiday bonus. She had cried when I handed it to her. Now it had been sold online for $80. Before I could process that, another message came in from a man who had bought a vintage Polaroid camera and found my old name label tucked inside the case. That camera had been mine since high school, stored in a closet at the family house because I didn't have room in my apartment. Then a third one, a leather tool bag with an engraved metal plate. For Dad, proud of you, had been listed at a swap meet by a younger woman and an older lady. They were not just missing my money, they were converting my love into cash. I sat on my couch staring at those photos, feeling something colder than heartbreak settle in. Later that same afternoon, my cousin Erin called and asked if I was alone. When I said yes, she sent screenshots from a private family group chat I didn't know existed. The title was "Protect Mom and Dad." In it, Brianna wrote that I had snapped and was spiraling because work got to her. Linda said maybe they should tell people I was drinking too much and getting paranoid, because that would explain the spreadsheet. One aunt suggested collecting donations through church to help with the bills Naomi suddenly abandoned. My father wrote, "Don't let anyone talk to her directly. She'll twist it." And there, in black and white, was the final thing I needed to stop wavering. My mother writing, "If we make it about family loyalty, she'll look heartless." I had spent years breaking my back for people who were now planning my reputation the same way they planned grocery delivery windows. Controlled, managed, useful. I won't pretend I felt powerful in that moment. I felt sick. I paced my apartment. I cried exactly once, hard and fast, angry at myself for still wanting a version of them that never really existed. Then I picked up my phone because part of me, the oldest, trained part, still wanted to fix it. I opened the utility app. I hovered over the restore payment option for Linda's prescriptions. Then another text came through from my father. "Since you want war, Don't expect us to forget it. Right after that, Aaron sent 2 more screenshots. Brianna had written, "Sell whatever she left here. She owes us for embarrassing Dad." That was the end of the hesitation. I didn't make a public post. I didn't write an essay. I sent one email to the relatives who mattered, and only the ones who had already been pulled into the lie. I attached the original text from Russell telling me not to contact them, the first page of the ledger, the bracelet photo, and screenshots from the private chat. Then I wrote one paragraph. "You are free to help my parents and sister if you choose. I only ask that you do it with the truth." For nearly 3 years, I covered recurring household expenses, tuition, insurance, and medical costs. After I was told not to come around, I ended that support. Since then, false statements have been made about me. I will not argue publicly. I am simply providing facts. That was all. By evening, the mood had shifted. One aunt who had called me selfish the day before sent back, "I didn't know." Aaron told me church leadership quietly declined to pass the donation envelope once they understood the situation. A cousin admitted Russell had already asked him for a short-term loan and claimed the utility issue was a bank error. For the first time, I saw what truth can do when it isn't begging to be believed. It stands there, calm, documented, unshaken, and it lets lies wear themselves out trying to run around it. But tell me honestly, what would you do if the people who took your money also started selling the memories you paid for? The next week was the ugliest one because it forced me to look at a reality I had spent years avoiding. Cutting off help does not instantly cut off grief. I still miss the family I thought I had. I still reached for my phone to tell my mother about a funny dispatcher on my shift, or to ask my sister whether she remembered the diner off Route 9 where we used to split pie after school. Trauma doesn't disappear the moment you grow a spine. Sometimes it gets louder first, but consequences were getting louder too. Grandpa Walter called to tell me the trust attorney had reviewed the property file and was prepared to issue formal notice if Russell kept pretending the house was his. The phone carrier confirmed the line transfer had failed because no one on their side had submitted proof of income. The insurance company mailed a lapse letter. Then the utility department informed me someone had tried to reauthorize my old debit card through the online portal. They couldn't see the full number, but the saved profile had been selected and rejected because I had already removed authorization. I sat at my desk at work staring at that alert until my hands stopped shaking. Even now, even after the text, even after the lies, they were still trying to reach into my account from the dark and flip the switch back on. That evening, I drove to the house to get the last of my boxes. I didn't go alone. Walter came in his pickup and parked at the curb without ever getting out, just close enough for them to see I wasn't arriving unsupported anymore. The minute I stepped onto the porch, Brianna opened the door with her phone in her hand, camera already pointed at me. "Say hi to the internet, Naomi," she said, smug and brittle. I walked past the lens like it was a coat rack. Russell was in the living room pretending to look unbothered. Linda sat in the recliner with red eyes and a blanket over her lap, the picture of wounded motherhood. It would have worked on me once. Not that day. I picked up the 2 plastic bins marked with my handwriting, checked the hallway closet, and saw that half the things I had left there were gone. "Where's my winter coat?" I asked. Brianna shrugged. "Maybe you should have come around more." Russell snorted. "You done performing?" That line almost made me laugh. The man who had texted me out of his life from a house in another man's trust was calling me dramatic. I set the bins by the door, pulled 3 envelopes from my bag, and placed them on the dining table. "These are copies," I said. "One is the notice from the carrier and utility accounts confirming removal of my payment authorizations. One is an inventory of property sold or missing. One is a meeting notice from Walter Hayes for Saturday at 10 a.m. regarding the house." My father didn't even touch the papers. "This is my house," he said. Nobody's dragging me into some old man's office. I looked at him for a long second, then said, "That old man still owns the deed." For the first time, he blinked wrong. Just a tiny hitch. But I saw it. Linda started crying immediately, not because she was shocked, I think, but because she knew. She had always known. Brianna lowered her phone without meaning to. Russell recovered first and tried anger. He wouldn't do that to family. I picked up my bins. "He might," I said, "especially after you helped yourself to mine." Then I walked out. In the truck, Walter didn't ask how it went. He handed me a folder from the law office and said, "Read the repayment option tonight. It's cleaner than court and uglier than excuses." Back at my apartment, I sat on the floor among my boxes and opened the folder. If they wanted 30 days in the house instead of 10, they would need to sign a notarized repayment agreement to me, stop using my name in requests for money or sympathy, and cooperate with the trust transfer process. The document was simple, precise, and devastating. That same night, I accepted a promotion I had delayed for 18 months because I was too busy being everyone's emergency fund. Operations planner, day shift, better pay, better hours, start date in 5 weeks. I signed the offer letter at 11:14 p.m. and realized that yes, I had changed everything overnight. Not by becoming someone new, by finally stopping the leaks that kept my old life sinking. Saturday morning was cold, bright, and mercilessly clear. Walter held the meeting in the front room of his farmhouse office, the same place he used to review land transfers and settlement documents when the county still trusted paper more than servers. He had already laid everything out by the time I arrived: the trust deed for the house, the ledger of my recurring payments, copies of the original text from Russell, screenshots from the private family chat, the inventory of sold and missing items, the repayment agreement, and a formal notice prepared but not yet served. When Russell, Linda, and Brianna walked in, they looked less angry than I expected and more exhausted. Consequences age people quickly when they're not used to carrying them. Brianna had lost the swagger from the porch. Linda looked smaller somehow, like guilt had finally bent her inward. Russell came in trying to stand tall, but there was strain in every movement. Walter didn't offer coffee. He didn't offer comfort. He simply said, "Sit down." Nobody argued with him. He started with the property. The house at 114 Cottonwood Lane remains under the Hayes family trust. No deed transfer was completed. No purchase agreement was fulfilled. No rent has been consistently paid. Therefore, your claim that it is yours is false. Russell opened his mouth, and Walter lifted one hand. "You will listen first. You have been doing too much talking on borrowed ground." Then he turned to me and nodded. That was my cue. I didn't stand. I didn't shake. I just opened the ledger and spoke. Over the last 31 months, I paid $68,214.17 in recurring household support, including utilities, phone service, truck insurance, tuition, groceries, pharmacy costs, and emergency expenses. I did that because I believed I was helping family through a hard season. On Tuesday night, Dad told me not to contact you, not to come around, and that I was on my own. Mom and Brianna supported that message. I took you at your word. Brianna started crying before I even reached the conditions. That sound would have unraveled me once. Now it just sounded late. I slid the repayment agreement forward. Walter is offering you 30 days before eviction proceedings move forward. In exchange, 3 things happen. First, you vacate the house within 30 days with no damage, no missing fixtures, and no delays. Second, you sign this notarized repayment agreement acknowledging the support I covered and agreeing to monthly restitution. Third, none of you use my name, my job, or my relationship to you to solicit sympathy, donations, favors, or money from relatives, church members, neighbors, or anyone else. If you continue spreading false statements about me, every supporting document in this room goes to every person you've misled." Russell slapped the table so hard the pen rolled. "This is insane. You're trying to destroy your own family." I looked straight at him. No. I stopped financing the version of family that only worked when I was being used. Linda started sobbing then. Real sobbing, not theatrical this time. "Naomi, I know we were wrong, but 30 days? Where are we supposed to go?" The answer rose in me without effort because I had been carrying it since that first text. "I don't know," I said. "That was the exact problem with what you did to me. You didn't know either. You just decided I should figure it out." Silence fell so hard the room seemed to tilt. Brianna whispered, "I only liked the message because I thought he was bluffing." I turned to her. "And you sold Mom's bracelet. You tried to sell my camera. You joked in a private chat about selling the rest of my things. At some point, that stops being loyalty to Dad and becomes character." She looked down and couldn't answer. Walter pushed the deed copy toward Russell. "You had years," he said. "Years to make this right. You didn't, because Naomi kept making it painless for you not to." My father finally ran out of volume and tried a different move. Pity. "You know I was under pressure." Walter didn't even blink. "Everyone is under pressure. Most people do not solve it by climbing into their daughter's wallet and calling it fatherhood." That was the hardest line anyone had ever said in front of him, and because it was true, it landed like a body. Linda asked me if I really hated them that much. I told her the truth. "No, that's the part you still don't understand. I don't hate you. I just don't trust you with my peace anymore." I signed my portion of the repayment form and placed the pen on the table. "From now on, you will learn how to live without my money, and I will learn how to live without being loved only when I'm useful." Nobody spoke for a long time. Then Walter said, "You may sign now, or I can serve the 10-day notice instead." Linda signed first, hands trembling. Brianna signed second because she saw her mother do it. Russell was last. He stared at the paper like it was an insult. Maybe it was. A legal, undeniable insult to every lie he had built his pride on. But he signed. Not because he respected me. Because for the first time, my boundaries had witnesses, documents, and a deadline. They left that day without another speech. No one hugged. No one reached for me in the driveway. There was nothing left to perform. 30 days later, Walter followed through. The house was emptied, cleaned, and leased to a quiet couple with 2 kids who paid on time and never once acted like gratitude was oppression. Russell moved into a small rental on the edge of town and took actual contract work because bluffing no longer covered gasoline. Linda got a receptionist job at a dental office and, 3 months later, mailed the first money order marked repayment. Brianna finished school the hard way, with loans, part-time work, and no one left to weaponize against me. And me? I took the day shift promotion. I moved into the apartment near work with windows that face the rail yard instead of someone else's crisis. I bought my own couch. I rebuilt my savings. I slept through the night without waking up to voice notes, fake emergencies, or guilt dressed up as family duty. Sometimes people ask what changed everything overnight. It wasn't revenge in the loud movie scene sense. It was one decision. I stopped paying for disrespect. That was it. That was the switch. Once I flipped it, every lie in that family had to survive on its own power, and most of them couldn't. The lesson I carry now is simple, and I wish I had learned it younger. Not everyone who shares your blood deserves unlimited access to your sacrifice. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do for toxic family is let them face the consequences you've been shielding them from. People do not grow while standing on your back, and you do not heal while calling your own exhaustion loyalty. The day my father told me I was on my own, he thought he was punishing me. What he really did was release me. So I'll leave you with this. If the people closest to you only value you when you're useful, would you still call that love? Or would you finally call it what it is and walk away?